Okay. So yeah, while we wait on that, we could go ahead and get started. Um, they've introduced me. My name is Jejuan Plair. I got really lucky, like in terms of like my basketball playing career. I I'm a military brat, so I've lived everywhere. San Antonio, Hawaii, Germany. Every 3 years we'd move. Kind of settled in Killeen, Texas, not far from here, and that's where I spent my high school days. Uh, I played. I went on to play. I played junior college first. A lot of people don't know that. So I was. I have an eye condition. Well, when I say a condition, when I was 6, I got cut in the eye by a knife, so I'm legally blind in my right eye. So like there was some adversity I had to pretty much get past. And usually I kind of take people through the whole story of that. I don't know if we have time today. If you're interested, just ask. But basically, long story short, is I had to basically prove myself to coaches. So, um, like I said, I lack depth perception. So I kind of understood coaches saying, hey, I don't want my point guard not to be able to see out of both eyes. So I went to junior college, proved myself, went on to play at Sam Houston State, right around the corner here. I was a mid-major All-American. Went to training camp with the Houston Rockets. Once I was released there, I played in the NBA Developmental League, and I played overseas in Europe. I learned a ton there. So I was just really blessed to go to a lot of really good places, to be coached under some really good coaches, a lot smarter than me. And basically, what I've done is just kind of taken things, this gumbo of information. Shooting coach, like I had a lot of really good experiences. And basically, I learned a lot about, like, even as a player, I started learning a lot about the coaching side of things. And just because you're a good player, I realized pretty early. I have a business in Houston. I just turned a warehouse into a gym. It's 2 smaller courts. Like if you're at 24 Hour Fitness, like running sideways, about 60 feet long. And, I've brought people in that, played professionally like I did. And I'm like, yeah, man, teach them the thing. And they're just like, no, I used to just do it. It's like Michael Jordan trying to teach me how to play basketball. You want to just jump over everybody. It's like, that's not an option for me. So that's kind of how we are, or you can be as coaches. You reach into your past of what you've done. I was a player where when I was in high school, I was probably the best athlete on the court typically. And then college, it was everybody's a great athlete and then beyond. So I had to learn how to execute. So I've kind of learned the best of both worlds. You have some coaches who come from a background of execution, and then when they have a player that can kind of get by guys and get their own paint touches, they don't really know how to open that guy up. And then vice versa. You have a guy who just didn't have much structure and played with his athleticism, and then he doesn't value the execution side. So because of the level that I got to play at, I got to experience both levels at a pretty high level, and that I can see how that helped me. So what I want to do first is I want to establish, a couple of things, and it'll basically be the blueprint to kind of how we do the rest of this clinic. So, you could just kind of think, and this isn't like a trick question because there's only 4 of them. Let's think of 4 things that happen every time down the court. All right. So, number 1, there's either a shot, so field goal. All right. We got any other things that might happen? Foul. Yep. Foul. Turnover. Yep. And last one. Well, there you go. Field goals go in one and the same. Rebound. All right. All right. So because of this, this is going to help us pretty much establish like what you want to focus on as a coach. So field goal percentage, it doesn't really matter how good of a scorer some of your players are. Like your shot selection has just as much to do with your shot percentage as your actual form does. A lot of players don't really understand that truly. And sometimes even the coaches don't really understand it. I mean, this kid, he gives us the best shot to score, but we're going to talk about a few things that are going to raise your field goal percentage just by doing them. We'll talk about that in a second. So field goal, Rob, we should write that down. Rob, are you in range, open, and balance? That's the acronym, ROB. Are you in range, open, and balanced? So one of the things that I learned when I was overseas is they'd have us do shooting tests. And, as a pro, as a guard, you should make, in an empty gym, 8 out of 10 shots. And this is a legit stat. You could almost like test it with any kid. You're going to shoot 30% less in a game than you will in an empty gym. So if you just stand me in the corner and let me shoot 10 threes and I make 8 out of 10, I'm probably going to shoot about 50% in the game. And that's how you get kids to understand. And when we talk about the game plans and the breakdowns, we're going to kind of go through how you can start establishing that. So you let a kid shoot. because I've gotten questions like, hey, well, this kid's allowed to take this shot and that kid's allowed to take that shot. I was like, look, I treat you different because you are different. He's a better shooter than you. It's just the facts. Steph Curry shoots better than me. There's no harm in any of this stuff. It's just those are the facts. So if you have a kid that hits 5 out of 10 threes in an empty gym, he's going to shoot about 20% of the game. And once you start establishing, hey, tall post player, you hit 6 out of 10, 15 at the 15-foot and in. Now, I wouldn't be a stickler and expect kids to shoot 8 for 10. I think your better shooters are going to hit about 6, maybe 7, and they're going to fall in the 30% range as a three-point shooter. That's your typical decent high school shooter. That's what, even when you move closer in. But here's the tougher thing. It actually goes down when you move closer in. If you ever looked at the analytics in NBA, they say a mid-range is a bad shot now. And it's kind of funny when they say that, because all of a sudden when Steph Curry shoots it, it's not a bad shot. When DeMar DeRozan shoots it and CJ McCollum, it's not a bad shot. But when Draymond shoots it, it's a bad shot. And the reason is because there's 3 reasons, and this is getting more into the training side. Players miss, because in order to shoot a mid-range now, unless you're in a zone offense where you flash middle, turn and shoot, to shoot a mid-range, you have to do it off the bounce. And that, as soon as you dribble, you become a worse shooter and passer typically. So the reason it goes even further down than that is because in order to shoot a mid-range, you catch it, all your plays, think about your plays. The kids are catching the ball at the 3-point line. Nobody's doing Kobe or Michael Jordan in triangle offense and catching it 15 feet. There's not very few offenses that work that way. So in order to shoot a 15-footer, you have to dribble, and that's lowering your percentage. So, but that'll be a typical percentage. But I don't really take open mid-range away from a kid if he hasn't dribbled. That's usually not a place we want to stand. I mean, the way the game's going, you want space. So now when you drive and you get help defense, you can easily get a catch and shoot 3 or a bad closeout for a drive. But so it's pretty standard though. So Rob would be one of the first things I'll write down under field goal percentage, because you have to establish to each player, hey, this is your range. If all 3 of these things are true, you're in the range that we've established. You're open. We show them and tell them what that is. Open means 2.5 feet or further, and it changes according to who's shooting the ball. I mean, we all know that. But in the grand scheme of things, are you in range? Do you have somebody 2.5 feet or further from you, and you stand and show them what that distance looks like? And balanced. Anytime you do this, you're moving the goal. Anytime your feet land, that means you were not balanced. Your heels should lift at the same exact time, and they should land at the same time. Anytime you've done that and leaned and you land on 1 foot first, and I'm not saying you can't. When I played, I shot quite a few of those shots. I mean, the defense is at the level where you have to be a shot maker. But we do establish which players can take some of those shots. If you're going to take a shot outside of Rob, so one of the other things I do is I go to different colleges and universities, and I train the guards and wings. And those players spend a lot of time. I mean, at Texas Tech, when Chris Beard was there, each kid basically had their own grad assistant with them. And it was their job to rebound for players between classes. And they had, I can't really remember, make or take. I want to say it's make, especially for the guards, 300 shots. All right. So that's just it. If you're going to take a shot outside of Rob, in range, open, and balanced, you have to be taking 300 shots on your own time. And then we will test you on it. All right, let's dribble left, full speed. Let's shoot a leaning fade. And if you can make 7 out of 10, hey, man, take those shots. But chances are your kid's going to shoot about 3 out of 10. He's going to be less than a 10% shooter at those shots. And then we've established that's a bad shot. And when we watch film with the anticipation of saying, hey, we'll grade it. We'll say, all right, we took a shot, pause. Is that an A shot, B shot, or an F shot? Those are the 3 shots. And then us as a team establish what kind of shot that was and for whom. So we had a shot where a guy caught the ball. Let's just use the Golden State. You got Draymond with the ball top of the key, guys closing out from Clay's side. An extra pass to Clay would make that an A shot. Because you shot it, it's a B. Now, if that's Steph Curry who caught it and he takes the shot, it's still an A shot. So we really establish personnel-wise who we are, what's our identity as a team. And again, once you start establishing that, then you can hold the kids accountable. Usually what happens is we don't really create these rules for the kids to understand and see, and we just yell out, hey, that's a bad shot. Why? Because it didn't go in? So we don't want to just be result-based coaches because it didn't go in. No, what we're going to do is we're going to play our percentages. As long as our guys are taking these shots, that's going to help us. So when it comes to field goal percentage, establishing shot selection is going to be huge. Now, I'm going to move. Sorry. Yes, sir.
Is that all the way down to 10U?
10U, and we'll get into that. Yeah, we'll get into that a little bit. The ball doesn't quite move well enough to really hold them accountable to say, let's wait for these shots. I mean, usually at that level, you have two kids that can catch the ball. I mean, so I wouldn't focus on that. What I would focus on if I'm looking to get 10U and 12U players better is their body mechanics and their agility. I mean, because if you have the team that's the best at that, they're gonna be like this a lot. They're gonna get more steals, more rebounds because their knees are bent. And I'm teaching agility and body mechanics. And that's the team that wins. The team that scores the most right-handed layups at every level is the team that's gonna win. And so at the 10U level, if you have 5 kids being right here in this position and their agility can read a rebound and push off this foot and get there, or do you have players like this who have to bend and then get there? Those are two different teams. So really the most athletic team is going to win at 10U, and it's basically they're going to just get steals and score layups. So it's tough to really hold them accountable to shot selection. Yeah, and I'll get into a little bit more of like what I kind of feel might be age appropriate at each level later in the slides. So I'm gonna jump to and what I want to do is I'm gonna put a timer on, and what I want to do is hold myself to kind of a hard stop so we can like ask questions, because what I don't want to do is just talk the whole time, and I might not be touching on the questions that I'm gonna put 12 minutes touching on the questions y'all might have. So if you have questions, we'll have kind of a hard stop and ask questions as well as we go, and feel free to ask in between, but we'll have a hard stop. So then I'm going to jump from field goal. So we have Rob. Now we're talking offensively right now. So I don't care about makes and misses. I care about the quality of shots we get. Now rebounds. We have a rule for our post players to touch every rebound. That is a stat we keep for ourselves. So if you go to A&M, any like college, they're going to have their own stats for deflections. We have one for touch every rebound. And the reason you're doing that is, let's use Micah, for example. Hey, Micah, this is your quota. You need to touch at least 10 rebounds. I didn't say get them. I said touch. All right, keep it alive. Or you got suicides for every one you're under that. So now this is the difference between Micah. He knows he has to meet a quota of 10. The ball goes up and he's like running underneath the basket versus just like this. If you have to meet a quota, and there's repercussions for that quota, he's capable of touching 10 rebounds. That's for sure. He's capable of probably touching 15 if he's focused on it. But if we just let him be him, then maybe he's going to be like, So that's one of the things we want to establish. I'm a big possession stats person, which you'll see here, and rebounds is obviously a big possession. Now, how do you get more rebounds? One, if you know where the shot is coming from before you shoot it. So when we run this play called Aggie, we have a stagger screen. I know some of y'all players. So we got Van coming off, a good shooter taking a good shot. And where are most rebounds going to go? 70% of rebounds are going to go to what we call the hot spot. We put 2 players in the hot spot consistently. One to probably body up somebody, like if they're in there trying to block, even if he doesn't get the rebound. I got another free guy that can jump like this with his whole arm because he's bodying up their best rebounder or the guy in the hot spot. Because we know percentages say if our good shooter misses, this is where the rebound's going to go. So because we know beforehand where the shot might go, we can get in touch more rebounds. Another thing is, as soon as, and that's why you need your kids to know what shots are theirs. Because as a team, when we run this play and Van's open and he's squared up and he's in Rob, I can start rebounding. And if Van passes up that shot, we got a problem. Me and Van do. Because I got everybody ready to go rebound for you. We got the guy, even though you missed your last 3, I need that extra possession. I want to shoot twice at the rim every possession. And that's how we view it. So I need him to take that shot regardless of his field goal percentage, but so we can get more rebounds. Another drill that I like to do is I like to get kids to do this. We just stand at the free throw line and we'll have our shooters shoot. And what they do is they have to say long, short, in. And that's what they call it each time they see the ball. Because what they have to learn, when I was with training camp with the Rockets, you know where the best rebounders were? The ball boys. The guys who, hey man, I'm about to get 400 shots up. Come rebound for me. The ball never touched the ground because they were so used to reading the ball before it hit the rim. That's a decided advantage already, right? Most players, you can watch your film. The ball's going to hit the rim and then they start pursuing. Too late, all right? Unless you hit the genetic lottery, you can just jump over everybody. Too late. So you need to start knowing where the ball might go, and you need to start reading trajectory of the ball, and that's going to help you with rebounding. So all those are things that we do, and the reason I'm so heavy on those on the offensive side is because I want extra possessions. Um, so the next thing is fouls. So how do we guard without fouling? All right, we show our hands, we wall up. I'm not going to get deep in that because we're going to talk about that in a little bit. But one of our goals on offense, and we write these goals down, is we want to make more free throws than the other team attempts. And the way you get there is basically we know what rules we're gonna play off 2 feet in the paint, so we can pump fake. Right, you play off one, you can't pump fake. All right. We're also going to make sure that the ball touches both sides, which moves the defense, which means guys are out of position. They're going to be in two-way closeout situations a lot. In case you don't know what two-way closeout is, if he's driving and I'm guarding Lisa and he drives and I'm out of position, now I have to run to help. And then when he kicks it, now I got to turn and run back. If I'm in good position, meaning I'm already in help, and then he drives, I'm already here. And then when he throws it, that's a one-way closeout. If you're constantly out of position, you are in a two-way closeout situation, and that's going to create fouls. So what you have to do is know your defensive positioning. All right. And so that is really important to know defensive rotations, positioning, so you're not in two-way closeouts. But offensively, what that means is if the ball touches varsity high school teams, if the ball stays moving and you stay attacking, will play defense for 7 seconds. That's it. So that's why, like, when kids come down with no passes and a shot and take an immediate shot, like, I have a huge problem with that unless you've proven to be that guy or you've made your last 3. Like, there's instances where that works, or the wide open hole. But at the end of the day, you come down and you shoot a 3 off the dribble with no ball movement. Those are the easiest blockouts ever. You just turn, block out. So what we establish is how do we create fouls? Paint touches. We have to get guys out of, even good defenses, get them out of position. The reason paint touches are so valuable, and I tell my players this all the time, I was like, I'm not afraid of the guy with 10 points. I mean, you hit 2 threes, get an open layup, hit a couple free throws, you got 10. I'm afraid of the guy that had 10 paint touches, because that meant that when he had the ball, our defender in front of him, he got by that guy, which meant for him not to get a layup, somebody else had to show up, which puts us out of position. And if he's a player who doesn't always shoot it, but he kicks, he's the one I'm scared of, because he's the one causing all the fouls, all the open standstill shots. He's causing all that. That guy scares me. So if we want to make sure we get to the line more than the other team and we accomplish our goal, then we have to make sure that we let it touch both sides, get guys out of position, and get paint touches. And so sometimes we'll count. And again, film just helps you out so much because you can see the results of your shot. Here's a funny stat. I didn't think it was true. It just sounded too good to be true. So the stat is, if you come down court with no passes and a shot, you're going to shoot about 20%, if not less. I mean, your players have to be good to shoot 20 if that's the case. And I'm not talking like layups at the rim, all that stuff, but typically no passes and a shot, it's going to be tough to get layups at the rim against decent teams. So 20%. The moment the ball touches both sides of the court, your percentage is already going up by 25%. So now you're at 45%. The moment you get a paint touch, your percentage is going up another 20%. That's 65% if you just make those two things happen. Yeah, and we've statted it. I actually have a film breakdown. If y'all ask for it afterwards, I'll send it to you, where we just statted one of our teams so they could understand that this is why we say what we say. I have analytics to back what I'm saying and why we're doing it. And I put out the videos so the parents can see it. And I think that's important because it helps when the parents know why their kids get pulled out the game. Because I am like as a coach, when I'm coaching, I'm a situational coach. We had a situation when I did coach 2 years ago. I put a kid in 10 seconds I put him in for 10 seconds and I put him out. And of course the parents were going in an uproar, which I was like, the reason we're winning is because of what I'm willing to do. I was like, most coaches aren't willing to do what I was just doing. And keep in mind, I'm playing at the JV level. And as we start to talk about your identity as a team, I heard y'all speaking on that a little bit. 10U, 12U, depending on how the skill of your team, 14U, try to get everybody to play. At some level, and I think this is a life lesson, you have to teach kids, a lesson that I learned. Basketball has taught me the harder I work, the more I get. And I don't like the playing time I'm getting. I better become more. Like, that's an important lesson. I think your program has to get to a level where that is the goal. Because if you don't, they're inheriting playing time. And That's not how life works. Hey, you need to become a better version of who you are. Well, I want my kid to play. Look, over the summer, these kids trained, your kids play PlayStation. If you want to teach them how to earn what they get, they need to start training like those kids did. Otherwise, they don't get what those kids get. Because after this, Aggieland stuff, if you're going to play in college, that's how it works. It's too late. So at some level, and I was coaching the JV level, our goal as a team, we sat down and we'll talk about IPPs, that's individual performance plan, TPPs, team performance plan, and your yearly performance plan. And as a team, we said we wanted to win the Go Ball National Championship. And some parents believe that I've had conversations, and of course they're tough conversations. I'm telling y'all because y'all are going to run into the exact same thing if you haven't already. I was like, what you want is you want your kid to have the ball, you want him to start, and you want to win. At your kid's talent level, all three of those things can't be true. Now, he could be on the A team, on the winning team, which means he won't start and he won't have the ball probably. Or he can have the ball and maybe start, but he's going to have to be on the B team, which means he won't win. All three things can't be true, and every player isn't good enough to make sure all three of those things happen. So you have to understand that this is what this team is. We chose as a group, as a collective, to win. So back to the story. I subbed the kid in. The other team had two pretty solid guards. One had gotten in foul trouble, and the other came out. And as soon as I put him in, they subbed the other kid out. Well, I saw that, and I was like, well, this is an opportunity to press. Well, the kid I just put in, he's slower. We use him for zones and slower stuff. I was like, let me put the kid with the 4.340 back in because the iron is hot. We need to take advantage now because that kid's only going to sit for 2 minutes. Well, of course, the parents assumed that I pulled him out because he did something wrong. I said, he didn't do nothing wrong. He just don't run a 4.340 like this kid, and we're pressing. So I think you have to coach situations once you get to that certain level, and you can establish that. I think 10U and 12U, you got to play everybody, and you're just seeing if they like basketball because that should be the goal at that age is I'm just trying to get you to fall in love with the game. Because if you fall in love with it, I don't have to peel you off the couch to go to practice on your own because you love it. You see the progress. And I think that's what you have to establish at the younger ages. And then eventually you start understanding that I got to become more. So, and the last thing is turnovers. So the turnovers, that's big. So first of all, there's live ball and there's dead ball turnovers. And they are not created equal. I'm going to finish this point and then I'll stop it in case y'all need have some questions. So a live ball turnover, a dead ball turnover, probably a confident player can have dead ball turnovers. I'm dribbling really hard, it dribbles off my foot, goes out of bounds. Typically your live ball turnovers, I'm on my heels because I stood straight up. I throw anybody can get it past, they run through it. We don't have a time to set our defense, layup. Remember, the team that scores the most right-hand layups is going to win, and you do that through turnovers and offensive rebounds. So that turnover allowed them to score points. The turnover where I dribbled off my foot, we get to set our defense. Your kid has live ball turnovers. This kid has dead ball. They are not created equal. So what we have to first establish is, since I want to keep my these are the four things that happen every possession. I have to keep these down. And maybe I assess my team and I say, you know what? One of the things that we do is, man, we don't have a reverse button like most players. Once they drive, you'll notice a lot of kids don't stop or retreat dribble. Okay, we got to fix that. Okay, then we got another player who right when he catches, he immediately dribbles. He became a worse passer, which probably means he doesn't execute very well, right? And then that also means he's a worse shooter. So we have to break some of these habits that you have. And you have to be careful who trains your kid, because you ever heard the Billy Donovan where you only have the ball 5% of the time? I mean, there's one ball, there's 10 players, everything created equal, you have the ball 10% of the game. And that's if you're a primary ball handler, all right? And if you're not playing the whole game, which you don't, you have the ball 5%. And kids put all their self-worth into that 5%. They don't worry about any of this other stuff, right, that don't require the ball. They're just focused on that. And you have to be good at the other things if you want to, be a good player, because what about the other 95%? All right. So I'm going to give a quick hard stop and just see if anybody has any questions before I keep moving forward. Anybody got any questions? No. Yes, sir.
When you do like incentive-based stuff in games,
Mm-hmm.
Do you do that for every player, or do you set it for like a team?
Good question. Good question. So you could do it a couple of ways. You could do the really big stuff with the assistant coach. There's no way a head coach is going to be keeping up with all that. So you could say, hey, look, I really value the ball touching both sides of the court before we shoot the ball. Keep track of how many possessions do that and what happened. So now in the timeouts, we're like, hey, look, guys, we're taking quick shots. The ball's staying on this side of the floor, blah, blah, blah. What I did is, especially the parents that just won't stay quiet, I just give them a job. And that job might be, hey, man, I need you to keep track of our possessional stats. So I had a sheet. It had rebounds, offense, defense, and I think turnovers or something. All those are possessional stats. And what I did is I had, like, in parentheses, I'd have a name and I'd have who it was. So if it's Micah, I'd say, hey, I need you to get 10 rebounds total for the game. Ethan, I need you to get at least 5. You play enough minutes, even though you're a guard, to get at least 5. And then this guy, and you do it according to the player, how much he plays, things like that. And then we kind of have a number when we get back to practice. Hey, guys, all right, Micah, you're at 8. So you got 2 suicides. Ethan, you're at 4, and you do it based off that. Long story short, we have different ways. I have to show y'all some of those sheets. And I give them to the parent, and the parent keeps track. While they're keeping track, it makes it really tough for them to scream out their rhetoric onto the court. So that's the job that I give them. And then, I have different stats like that. And then after the game, we look at those stats. We decide what a good game is. Because what you're trying to do is you're trying to get kids to be good at their God-given ability. If you leave it up to the kid, all of them want to be LeBron. And you're like, no, you're the strongest, biggest kid on our team. Did you set the screens perfect at the right angle? And that's your job. Be good at that, because it's really good for kids to see progress if you show them something they're good at. It's really tough to work on your weaknesses. And a lot of times kids are frustrated because scoring is their weakness, but that's what's valued. I mean, who can blame them? I mean, you turn on ESPN, all I see is the scoring, when I look on TikTok, all I see is the scoring. So I don't blame the kids for it, but you tell them, hey, there's nothing wrong with scoring. You can keep working at that, but this is what you're good at. You should be the best rebounder on our team and the best screener, and we celebrate that as a team. So I try my stats not to lead to how many points you score, but basically, what do you bring to the table? And here's how you want to establish your teams too. I mean, we have the head. It's just like anybody. You have the arms. Hey, you're the shooter. You're the arms of the team. You're the muscle. You're the rebounds and screener of the team. This is where you get dysfunction, is when you have the legs of the team trying to be the head, and the head trying to be the arms and be the shooter when he should be running the team. And that's when you have dysfunction. So you establish a role and you let them know, hey, man, your piece is valuable. And I think kids need to learn how to play from the bench. Like, you need to learn to be a good player. You need to learn to be happy for other people. And by the time you go in the game, like I have one player, man, I love this kid so much. I mean, he'd come right to me in timeouts. He was like an assistant coach. He knew he wasn't going to play, but he loved his role. He said, hey, coach, when they do the baseline out of bounds play and they do this, hey, they're setting a cross screen on the weak side, and then such and such is coming. We talked about in the timeout, we deflected a pass that we had to get off because that kid was too big. If he would have caught it there, we would have been done. And then we got a steal, and all the kids jumped on this kid for like talking about that in the timeout. Like, we were celebrating that, and he loved that to be his role. And kids have to learn to be happy for other people, because look, basketball says no to everybody at some point. It said no to me. Eventually said no to Michael Jordan after the Wizards. I mean, it says no. Sometimes you're 16 when it says you don't get to play that much, but you still got to learn to make yourself valuable. And so that's one of the things. But that was I went really deep into that question. You didn't ask for all that, but we got anything else before I continue? So long story short, as we look at this, you could also look at it from what I just talked about, the offensive side, the defensive side. And on the defensive side, this is something to write down. The highest percentage shot in basketball is a free throw. The second highest percentage shot is a layup. People ask why. Free throws aren't contested. The third highest percentage shot is the corner three. All right. That changes based on the level you're playing. But typically, once you get to the JV level and up, that's pretty much the percentage. If you don't know why, free throws are without shooting. Layups is the closest shot to the rim. And the corner threes is the only three where there's no dribbling. Typically, you have a stronger shooter there. It's typically the guy has helped out the corner. You run plays there. It's catch and shoot. And most people aren't going to put Draymond in the corner. They're going to put Clay. So you got a good shooter that's not dribbling, taking shots. So we don't help out the corners. I either trap corners or we stunt out of it. We never help. Like, I'll stunt and get back, and usually they'll throw it right to you. So when you understand that, those are the shots we're taking, right? Because we're playing the analytics game, and we're baiting the other team to take all the other shots. off the dribble from the top of the key, dribble midi, all that stuff. We're trying to do all of that. So yes, free throws, layups, corner threes. We already talked about guarding without fouling. We'll watch a team, and if we are able to see them early, we'll see who's the red dot. The red dot is the guy who's undisciplined. Who's the guy? We'll go after the most athletic guy. We'll let him block our first shot, and after he blocks that first shot, you can say what's up and pump fake, and he's jumping out the gym. If you play off two, you get your fouls, or he'll jump right out your way. All right, and we just, it's fun for the kids because they have more information than the other team, and they're just kind of laughing at, man, I planned that. But if you play off one and you're dealing with that guy who's more athletic than you, game's over. So that helps us shoot more free throws than they do. We teach walling up because if you ask a kid, if you ask a kid to practice, most kids won't work on their touch shots. That we call them giant killers, your floaters. That's part of our vitamins. So like our vitamins is we take the shots that people want us to take because we know once we face really good defenses, they're taking away the same thing we're taking away. Right? They want to wall up without fouling. They're going to play defense with their feet, not their hands. And so we have to practice the shots that are going to be available to us, and typically they're tough. This is another good point. It just went in my head when I was talking about it. And this goes more individual based. There's 6 levels of scoring. The first level is at the rim. All right. The second level, dunks and layups is first level. Second level is floaters and runners, right? A lot of kids in a game refuse to take that shot. I was the same guy because you're not going to take a pull-up jumper 4 feet from the basket. That's not how that works. You'll take your veer shots, you'll take your floaters and your runners. So that's going to be like 2 to 8 feet, let's say. And then from 8 feet to the 3-point line is level 3. That's your pull-up jumpers, right? We're not shooting floaters from that deep. All right, and then the level 4 is shooting regular threes on the line. Level 5 is shooting Trae Young, Steph Curry threes. And then level 6 is free throws. All right, so then you ask a kid, you say, hey, I'm going to let you in my gym. You're going to take 100 shots. Where do you think you're going to take these shots from, these 100 shots? Like if nobody told you anything, typically if you made me guess, they would take 60% of their shots from 3, level 4. They would take about 30% 30 pull-up jumpers, right, off the dribble, and they won't work with any other level. They might take a couple of layups, but they're pointless layups. And what I mean by that is they're not game speed, they're angled layup lines, so they mean nothing. So they're just taking up time. And you've been in the gym for 2 hours and you feel like you've put in work, but you really haven't taken any of the shots that my team is going to make you take. So because we're not going to let you take catch and shoot threes. All right, so now you're going to have to do it off the bounce, and now you're taking shots that you don't practice. And that's our goal, is through that. That's what we look to do. And we wall up and we dare people to make enough floaters to beat us. And most kids don't practice that shot enough to do it. So we live with that. Here's a couple, like I said, as it comes to me, I just say it. The 4 reasons players miss layups, lower level players. They only practice layup line angled layups, right? So they don't practice the non-backboard angles. If you're a team that moves the ball, swing, corner, you're going to get a baseline drive. That's a non-backboard angle. Most coaches want you attacking what? Middle. That's a non-backboard layup. What kids do is they get middle and they'll do all this to get to the layup line angled layup, and they'll miss just because of that. Reason number 2 is they're not ambidextrous. Reason number 3 is they don't practice against defense. Reason number 4, they don't practice game speed. So those are the 4 reasons lower level players miss layups. And because they don't practice game speed, y'all seen it. I mean, even at the higher levels, the kid is moving so fast, he shoots it off the backboard and boom, bounces all the way to half court. Because their momentum is shooting the shot and they don't practice at the speed that they need to practice at when they play. The 4 reasons higher level players miss layups, and we're talking college, NBA, all that. Number 1 is everybody wants, if this is the rim right here and I'm going to it, everybody wants to jump from here. Well, if you're driving and I reach and I make you pick up the ball, guess what? You're going to end up jumping from here, right outside the block. And it looks the same in a game. They look similar. But jumping an extra 3 feet is a different shot. So they don't practice that. They practice as if there's no defense and they're not going to make you pick up the ball where you don't want to. So 1 is they're not jumping from that distance. 2, they don't use the right English to put on the ball. Number 3 is whatever shot you take, you want your elbow lined up with the rim. So if I'm taking a jump shot, I want my elbow, more specifically my palm, lined up with the rim when I shoot. When I shoot a finger roll, same thing. When I shoot a floater, same thing. Well, guess what? If I have a defender right here, I'm not going to be able to do that. I have to do where my elbow is not facing the rim. Kyrie's amazing at it. Y'all know that. I don't even know if I've ever seen him get blocked before. That's how crazy that is. I can't even picture it in my head. But it's because he can do that and use English. All right. And then number 4 is they don't have a giant killer, meaning a floater to shoot over the defense. And I think kids need to practice a floater. And what happens is coaches typically coach at a kid's level. of where he currently is, hey, that's a bad shot because you don't make it. And it's like, well, if he's going to accomplish his dreams, which may be to play at college, he's going to need it. All right, because yeah, it works out when he's the best athlete, but when he's not, he has to have something that gets over. And you just got to teach kids to practice hitting the backboard on the way down, not on the way up. That's why you miss. So that's just a quick little throw in.
If you are having a kid shoot 300 shots, what's your ideal breakdown of that?
Percentage wise,
Yeah.
I think kids should just do reps and work with where they're at. And I think until they get to a certain point, they should compete with themselves. So if you make 100 and if you make 150.
You're talking about the levels of the shots.
Okay. Sorry, got you. So I'll go back. I think it's skill based. So, if I'm a slower player, I'm gonna really struggle getting a lot of paint touches. So I'm usually gonna be a second paint touch guy, which means I need Kyrie to dribble and do the first paint touch, and then I just have to get good at reading closeout. So now I pump fake, and I'm gonna get a lot of pull up jumpers. Let's say I'm really fast. I don't know if y'all have let's say y'all have a track kid in your program. I would tell him, hey, what areas, this is how I break down routines. What areas do you get to most often? So you watch yourself. If you're really fast, you're probably getting by this initial guy. The problem is you think you got to get all the way to the rim, and you're probably an inefficient finisher. So what I would say is you need to work on the spots that you get to the earliest. We could use me for an example. I was not a good level 2 scorer in high school. In high school, it worked out. It was fool's gold because I was a better athlete. When I got to college, I mean, I had shooting guards like knocking my shot way over there. So I had to really learn I get to these areas effortlessly, but I don't have a shot for it. So I would base my routines off of what areas do I get to the most? And then the next thing is in my offense, where do I catch the ball the most often? Right? So if you're not a ball handler, think PJ Tucker, Trevor Ariza, you never see them above the free throw line, right? They're always below it. I watched Trevor Ariza work out. He came in for 2 hours. He shot about 45 minutes from the left corner, 45 minutes from the right corner, and he shot some free throws and did some little other stuff, and he left. Why am I taking free throws at the top of the key when I'm always going to be in the corners? So you have to think about where in the offense do I catch the ball. And then the third thing, because they're kids, Trevor Ariza is a pro. I just want to make my next contract. A kid is trying to develop his game. Where do I want my game to go? That's how I would break that down. Because now, if I want to be a guy that can shoot all these step backs and stuff, I have to be able to shoot out. I got to outshoot Rob. I got to outshoot those percentages that Rob creates. And then that's how you could establish a good routine for yourself. And that's going to be different depending on who you are as a player. That's probably the best way I can explain it in terms of routine. And they have to make it a routine because it is difficult to work on weaknesses. Like, if your kid's a good shooter, I bet you Van can shoot 1,000 shots. But if you tell Van to do 1,000 defensive slides, he's like, right? Like, I don't want to do things that I'm not good at. Right. And so, like, that's difficult. So the way you do it is you turn it into a routine. And then, that's how you ensure or make sure that it gets done. So, yes, sir.
How do you help kids who obviously have certain strengths to lean into the identity that you see when they want to be someone else? I think that's something that's really common. Like, I coached a big kid who the first day I was like, what's your strength? And he's like, I shoot threes. And I'm like, okay. That's okay. Yeah. I mean, I want him to feel that way, but I also want to be like, man, at this level, you could be utilized differently, and I want them to feel good about that. Steph Curry's their favorite player, and that's what they want to be. How do you shape that, and how do you incentivize them to be like, man? And I wonder how you even get the team to recognize and incentivize them, like the way that kid helped on the bench, and everyone knew that was him.
Yeah, that's a great question. So most kids fail because the conversations at home, right? The car ride home, they blame everybody but the kid, but themselves. And I try to get kids to be good at their God-given ability, and I'll stop practice in order to do it. Yo, hey, great screen, stop, hold on. What just happened right there and why? One kid came off the screen and scored, and it's like, but who created it? And then everybody's able like, oh, and it makes you take notice. Like, I better come off of Kavion screens because he obviously sets the best screens. If you don't stop it, they don't notice. And I haven't even got to the presentation yet, so like, don't worry about it. I think this is good. So this is how I describe it. Kids don't know their basketball geography. They don't know where they are. It's like being in a mall. You are here. To get to JCPenney, you got to go there. And their POV is so poor, they think they're standing here when they're not. So as a coach, you're looking at that big wall map, and you're like, dude, you are here. I don't know why you think you're here. It's because my favorite player is Steph. he's a great shooter, not you. You know, like you don't get to take shots because your favorite player takes shots. You need to take shots because that's what you do. And so I spend a lot of time in the app. I'm gonna share it with you all. I shared it with Rich and Lisa, and basically one of the things on there, if I haven't taken it off yet, is you have to know your strength, the weakness within your strength, and your weakness. And this is how we establish that. So let's say you said shooting. Let's say shooting is my strength. All right, because this is an example I actually use on the video. Okay, I'm a good shooter in an empty gyms, so I think. The weakness within my strength might be, okay, well, I'm a good shooter when nobody's on me on the gun, but how good am I a shooter when I'm coming off screens, off pin downs, from range, reading closeouts, right? In the pinch post. Like, so now you ask them, are you still a good shooter in these situations? And then they start to realize, all right, let's test it out. And you do tests so they can see exactly who and where they are. Because I used to tell kids the best players are the players that forget. And there was a time where I think that used to be true. That is not true anymore. These kids forget way too quickly. And because of that, they don't even remember the last 5 shots they missed. They just remember the last one that they hit. And so as a result, there's this false sense of who they really are. And so you need kids to be able to understand that. So once you establish the weakness within their strength, then you tell them about their weakness. And then we kind of have to dive into that. And I use film to show them where their worth is. It's like I have a kid that gets a lot of offensive rebounds. And matter of fact, his name's Evan. He plays for CHSA. He's a little Mexican kid, like probably this much to me. Just relentless. He has just bought into that role, and he wanted to shoot, and now he shoots catch and shoot threes, and he's pretty high percentage. But if there's a shot, he's going and getting it. And we've done whole film breakdowns of just watching him get us extra possessions. And we even did one stat that I can remember. There was 41 shots attempted in the game from the other team, and we won by 6 because we took 49 shots. And Evan had 5 offensive rebounds, 3 steals, and he touched 4 other rebounds. We got to shoot 8 more shots than them because of Evan. And so like everybody on the team is just like, they recognize who he is, and because he's getting praised because of it in front of his peers, and I'm rewarding it, right? Like, hey, you get to play more because of this thing that you do. So there's kind of ways. I don't know if I answered it directly, but is there another way to answer?
No, I appreciate that.
Okay, yeah. So that's probably what I would say that I would try to find.
Just like learning to see it as a coach, to see it,
Yeah,
and then call it out in a way that helps them feel good about it, but also okay with being vulnerable, having weaknesses.
catch them when they're good. I mean, because and I look, I'm super guilty of this. When I first started coaching, because I'm a believer that you don't sing kid praises all the time, because it's like, hey, you're supposed to do the things you do good at. You get better because of what you're not good at. And so I would stop practice every time there was a mistake. And then I was like, I got to learn to catch kids when they're good. Oh, hold on. Hey, way to retreat dribble, because we don't retreat dribble. So somebody finally did it. Let's stop practice because of that. And let's recognize it. And now all the other kids, if you catch them when they're good, they're like, man, I want coach to say that for me. And then they take that on and start doing that as well. So catching a kid when they're good, I think, can help them embody the role that you really want them to have. And then just let me get to some of the slides too. What's my window, Rich? I kind of want to stay in frame. Like you can see from here to here. Okay. Am I gonna have to turn that TV back on? Or? Right. Perfect. Here, what we'll do is, since this is up, I'm not even on the slides. I think this will kind of help. So, because one of the things I'm going to talk about is identity. So this is the 1 year that I coached, and I put it on. I'm gonna just kind of play it. I think this is the beginning of a quarter. So I just want you to kind of just see what's being taught. So already, we want the ball on that side of the floor, the left side of the floor. So he's guarding here. We'll leave him wide open because we're gonna bait you to throw it to the left.
You're white.
I'm white. Yep, we're white. So now that it's over there, we play a passing lane defense. This guy has no intentions of stopping ball. He has every intentions to force looping passes. So because if he does his job making throw looping passes, we can rotate easily, right? If we're throwing it on a rope, that's too fast. It's gonna hit here, then hit corner, and now we're playing against a closeout. So so using the rhetoric that I was using earlier. The highest percentage shot in basketball is free throw, then layups, then corner threes. And so loop and pass. You see how looping that is? All right. So we stay in, even these guys stay in line with the ball. All right. And because most kids aren't 0.5 decision makers, he should have been lower, but he takes off dribbling immediately. He can't even see him yet. So even though we're ready for corner, we throw it. We get a steal in transition, and what's it called? And then if you watch the other team, you really don't really see their plan. Like you can't see if they're a team that forces a sideline, it forces us middle. So okay, so we run this little rub screen to see if they're gonna talk. They don't talk. Ty gets a wide open dunk. All right, now this one at the top, he's my 4-3-40 guy. He's not quite as good as Isaac at doing this stuff, but Isaac would be standing here, letting him run to that side of the court. He's so fast. He's trying to take away everything because he's quick, but he's such a different change in terms of our defense that we just kind of let him be what he's good at, even though I kind of have rules. So now the ball's on the left side. Yeah. So so anytime he's in the middle, it's trapped. So they don't have any. See, that's too quick of a shot for them. Like he's not balanced. That is not a shot he practices. We're good with that. They had no chance of getting a foul on that. They had no chance of getting any of that. So look at this shot. So the hot spot, a good shooter taking a good shot. This is the hot spot. In a perfect world, like we do drills to practice our rebounding. We got to get this guy bodying up. And usually he would run here, but I'm sure he didn't know if Ty would go in because that's our best rebounder. But Ty did right to stay back and balance the floor. So you see we have a guy in the hot spot. That guy just did a good job at blocking out. So you can kind of see the rules happening. So what their coach has just said is try to beat the zone back. That's going to be difficult. Now, look at our fouls, dead ball fouls. We're not fouling while he's shooting. We're foul. I'll take a foul right there because, again, the Mexican guy that could get the rebounds right there, he's our best middle guy. So if he gets a couple of fouls and he gets fatigued, that's fine. Corner threes,
What do you guys run?
Oh, right here. Oh, yeah, I'm glad you asked because that's a 1-3-1, and it's different. And this year we'll do more man. It's just it. Couple things. You don't get 2 practices a week. With me coaching them first year, there was not enough time to teach all the man-to-man bad habits out of them. So 2 practices a week is not enough. So I could do 1-3-1 and I could focus on teaching them how to play offense because nobody's going to have a true offense with the 1-3-1, especially the way we run it. So now we could go into games, even if I didn't get a good scout on the other team, I know that you can't individually beat that 1-3-1 the way we play it because we're going to let you take every shot outside of the core shots. And so because of that, I'm able to teach them other things, but also at the same time, I'm teaching them as we run man. Since we had a really good team, we had plenty of chances to teach and run man using the games we played. Because let's say we blew a team out in the first half and we play man and teach principles a second because I couldn't do both. I couldn't just be a man-to-man team and win. I kind of had to like do it this way. So now what's happening is this is the second quarter. At this point of the game, we trap corners. They are afraid to throw it to the corner now. Like it's the second quarter because every time they threw it corner, we had a guy in line with the ball. They threw a looper. They got trapped. So guess what? They don't throw it to this corner or this corner. We have less court to guard as soon as that's in their head. Every time they throw a corner. So now that I have less court to guard, I can use my 5 guys to cover the rest of the square footage of the court. So now they mess around and throw a corner again. And we also teach the kids, here's the rules, the trapping rules. Like, we have a rule, never take another man's bet. So when we get a trap, there's 2 on the ball, 2 interceptors, 1 rim protector. Anytime we trap, that better be the case, okay? Because we've repped it out so much. And I'm not a yeller or a screamer. I don't yell at ignorance. I tell kids all the time, I'm okay with a mistake. I'm not okay with an excuse. Because a mistake means, hey, coach, I did something wrong. I'm going to correct it. Excuse means, but it was him. And you're going to do the same thing again and again and again. So if and everybody on the team knows it, hey, man, 2 on the ball, 2 interceptors, 1 rim protector. All right. So all that stuff means something. So again, now Josh messed up because Josh is not supposed to leave, but so there we go. Wall up, no fouls. Why didn't that kid get a shot up? That's a shot right there. But Ty's not gonna. Well, when I first got Ty, if he would have blinked, Ty would have jumped right out of his way. So we kind of have a rule: nobody scores past you. And when we get the players out here, oh man, I'm running out of time. I got more information than I got time. All right, so when we get the players out of here, we're going to do like some small-sided games so you can see like some of these rules that we're kind of establishing and how even if you don't want to run a full practice, the rules can teach something. Do me a favor because I probably won't remember when we're out there. Is write down wall up small-sided game, something like that. Yeah, wall up, wall up game. Yeah, wall up, WALL up game.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
So with us, I think also only having 2 practices,
Mm-hmm.
once you kind of have the understanding of whatever offense and defense you're running, at least with your team after the first few practices or so, do you think film is better for them, like learning the offense and defense more, or do you think it's doing it on the actual court? I feel like film, at least for me, was better for understanding what I was doing wrong in offense or defense.
Yeah.
Than doing it just running on the court.
Yeah. No, that's a great point. Yeah, you have to find a way to watch film. Because I didn't want to give up my practice time, and I have plenty of videos if y'all want to see any of them. I pretty much cut up the film myself and then sent it out to them for a couple of reasons. So one, I send it to the parents for the parents to give to the kids. So hopefully the parents watch it and understand this is what we're trying to get done. Because as soon as you get the parents on your team, the car ride home doesn't disrupt what you're trying to get done. Because at the beginning of the year, it all looks ugly. And you got to be okay with ugly. But I do agree, because I thought of this a while ago. And when y'all watch some of this, my wife and I do something called the Players Assist. She hears me on the phone all the time, and she's like, hey, I'm going to interview you, and you're going to give all these answers based on what you think, because you're thinking differently than how most people view it. But basically, I was telling her, I was like, once I got to college, because I thought I was watching film in high school, but this is what film was in high school. Man, that's a bad shot. Come on, you can't do that, Jejuan. So what do? There was nothing. It's just don't do that. I'm like, okay. But when I got to college, I started learning how to watch film, and there's multiple ways to watch it. You can watch for tendencies. You can watch for your game. I won't get into that. That could be a different coach's clinic or something on how to break down and watch film. But when I do the film, they get to see what I want. One of the parents, when we go to nationals, we pretty much watch film on all the teams that were coming up and about to play. One of the parents didn't want to come, and he was like, "Oh, don't worry, I'll watch film with them." I'm just like, but we're trying to do things as a unit. Right? If you doing what you think is best, and even if you're right and I'm wrong, we got a better chance of winning if all 5 guys are trying to do together what I'm trying to do versus your kid going rogue and doing what you think is best. So I do think that film, you kind of have to figure out how you're gonna bring that. And basically what I did is I use this thing called Screencast-O-Matic. They call it ScreenPal now. And I just watch the film. It videos your screen, and I just talk and pause. YouTube's the easiest one because you could go back 5 seconds and easily break down film. And then sometimes you could watch it like we're watching. And here, I'll go and let you see a couple more possessions as we go. So he walled up, and now that kid took too many steps because he wanted a layup blind angle layup. All right. So you could see kids' tendencies as we're doing it.
Was this when y'all won the championship?
Yes.
And this was a few years ago too.
Yep. Yeah, and this is 2 years ago. So here's another one. Live ball turnover. When those happen, what do? I need Ty as a weak side to dig in and go get transition. So here's a couple of transition rules, because I don't think we'll do it when we're out there. Is you always want to create one more pass than you are people. So if it's 2-on-1, I need to make one pass to Lisa, and the best way I can do that is stun it. I have no intentions of actually running at you. This is the mistake for kids. They'll see you with the ball and they'll run right to you. You'll throw it right over the top of my head, one pass and a layup. We can't allow that to happen. So if you're on a 2-on-1 situation, I'm going to stunt like I'm really after you, get you to pass it once to Lisa. Then I could go and guard Lisa, and she has to throw it back to you. That's 2 passes. I'm done. Coach can get on the rest of those 4 guys for not getting back if I make you make 2 passes. Now, if it's 3-on-2, so there's me and a teammate, we have to make you make 3 passes because we're 2 people. So one more pass than you are people. Because, again, if you can make them make 3 passes, what are they doing down there? Those other 3 guys that we're waiting on. So those are the guys that get in trouble once you accomplish your goal of transition defense. So when this happens, because we know, I already said, the team that scores the most right-handed layups wins. You just saw us get a dunk. That counts as a right-handed layup. We're going to our right hand. That's the easiest shot. So we turn it over. Ty needs to be getting deeper than everybody. We go for a steal, and we get a foul, and I'm okay with that in transition because guess what they got to do? Play against our half-court defense, and they obviously don't have an answer for it. So I'm okay. So let's see what happens on this. And this is what we'll do. Okay, we sprint it back on defense. We had a bad turnover, a live ball turnover. We saved it. So let's see, can we save this possession? All right. So my best defender just went out. This guy's a Swiss Army knife. So let's talk about roles. He can't play multiple positions. He's quick enough to play multiple. That's value in that. To be able to, I could put him up top. He's not as good as those two, but he'll fare. He could play wing. He could play bottom. He could play any 5 positions defensively, and we can stay as a unit. And everybody on the team knows that about him. So let's see how this position works. Possession. And here's the thing. For this team, their best player was a 5'9" guard. It's going to be difficult for him to weave and go through people. Because if you get by him, you still got to score on Ty. And you still got to read that. So,
Quick question.
yes, sir.
Can you go back to, yeah, right there. So, are you always forcing the left? Because it seems like this guy's already in the half-court column.
Yeah.
So, is the idea to always force the left, or should you ball up on the right side?
He should have. I would have sent him right at this point.
I just know that was a principle that you were teaching.
Yeah. If he catches it here, then we would stay on that side. But like I said, he was making them so uncomfortable against the rules that we've set that we're just going to be smart and just let him continue to bother them. So no, that's a great point. If they showed a bit more comfort, because here's the thing about this, and I'll kind of face the way the court is. So if I'm dribbling down court and I'm on the left side of the floor, and you guys are on the right side of the floor, for me to throw it to that side of the court since I'm right-handed, it's obvious that I'm throwing it to the right. I got to turn my shoulders. If I was on that side of the floor throwing this way, I could probably, without letting you know what's going over, and I probably could throw it on a rope. So we want them to be on the left side, so they have to do this kind of stuff. So we'll probably watch like a. Sorry?
No, I'm saying most kids handicap left.
Yeah. Most kids do not. So you see where they're playing the game, right? And if you let kids play, so here's another principle. Because all these are principles to teach man to man. And so this guy is guarding both. That's what happens on the weak side of every defense. The weak side always has to guard two. It don't matter what you're in. So this is called a stunt. As soon as the ball is thrown. So this guy stunts like he's going to guard, but he has no intentions of guarding and jump back just to buy time for him to get in front and him to get on ball. So that's what a stunt is. And then he's back in line. So now you see he caught corner. There's no way he can catch and shoot that shot. So now he's on the dribble, and now they get trapped again. So that's kind of the gist. And so, so we get a travel. They're just playing fast in their abilities. Now, this is what it would take for a team to really beat us on purpose with this, is once this ball gets here, the better you are at defense, the better you're going to be on offense. Because this kid should feel that there's 4 people here and there's one guy there. This should be a catch and immediate pass to their best player. He can't see that. The game's moving way too fast for his ability, and that's the purpose of pressure defense, is to get you to play faster than your abilities. And if you notice, that was a wall up. So even when that ball won, everybody's on the flight of the ball, they're moving. Now, he probably should have went deeper, because if he wouldn't have traveled, that would have been a foul. But that's the gist. So let me stop that there, and then I'm going to go through a couple of slides for you real quick.
You want to go like 30 minutes, because it's 7:45 right now. So you want to go like 8:15 and go out there and you have 45 minutes.
Okay, yeah, we could do that. Yeah, that'll work. Because I could shrink some of the stuff, like just show the concept when we have the players, versus the information might be a bit more important. So anyway, this is IPP plan. It's really tough to establish it with so many players, but you don't got to be perfect at it. So IPP plan is an individual performance plan, basically getting to what you were talking about. Identify performance issues that need improvement. All right. So we're basically identifying your strength, your weakness within your strength, and your weakness. You explain the level that you expect. You supply the drills, routines, mental approach. Now I'm a trainer, so that like makes it easy for me. But most stuff just takes reps. I mean, if you're not good with your left hand, how do you, like, kids ask me that, you almost laugh in your head. How do I get better with my left hand? You use it. You use it. And so you schedule progress meetings for the player. You outline consequences. I'm kind of going through this fast just for the sake of time. And then if you meet the standards, you increase it or you create a new IPP plan. So this would be that. The performance would be become a better finisher in traffic, and off the dribble. So you explain this is the expected performance. You currently shoot 35% from two. I need you to shoot 50% by December. So that forces a kid to do what level of scoring? Level 1 and level 2, right? I mean, you would think, or you tell him specifically if he doesn't get the gist. So you supply drills. Hey, work on 3 different 2-foot footwork finishes. Most kids at the varsity level have 3 finishes. They have a Euro, they have a 1-2, right? And they have one sort of 2-foot finish. All right. So there's more than that. I think if you want to be an authority in the paint, you need at least 7 finishes. So kids haven't really thought of that. That could be something if y'all want it when we're outside, I can show you. And you could say, hey, you're going to make 20 from any different spot if you got to design it for them. Because a lot of times kids go from those layup angles and they think they're working layups, and that's not what good teams are going to give you. So you schedule a progress meeting at Christmas break. Let's talk about it. The consequences, if you're still below 50%, which means you didn't work, because here's the reality. If you work, you'll get better at it, whatever you're going to work at. And so then, hey, there's consequences. Hey, maybe you shouldn't be the wing for us. Maybe you got to play the post where you're already down there, right? Like your skill set this is where you're at. And I'm not saying you're always going to be there, but maybe you don't get to play a position less. So, and that's kind of how, now that I said that, that's kind of how you want kids to treat it. I have, kids junior high, and dad's like, hey, they just play me at post because I'm tall. And I was like, well, you look like a post. Like the decisions you make, your footwork, your agility, it looks like a post when I watch you. And you think that me playing you at guard is going to get you better. It'll get you marginally better, but you got to get better on purpose. Kevin Durant's 6'11". Nobody thinks he's a 4 or 5. All right. LeBron can play point. So it's like, it's not your size. If you had the skill and you look this way through your repetitions, you could play a position less. Because when a coach is turning the ball over, he don't care who can get that ball up court and not turn it over. It don't matter how tall you are. So this is just a progression that I would say. I was like, look, to me, this is my honest opinion. You look like a 4 when I watch you play. Your goal from now until November is for me to say you look like a 4-3, right? Because every position you go less of, like going up, you've gained more skills. So then I want you to look like a 3-4. Then by the end of the year, maybe you look like just a 3. Like you got a good triple threat game. Maybe you can't dribble up the court and stuff, but you can play out a triple threat. You can attack from the perimeter. You can do those things. And then, hey, our next year, 3-2, 2-3, and then the kids can see progress. This is how important it is to show a kid, progress. This is a good analogy. If I gain weight, let's say I gain weight in my stomach first, then my legs, then my fingers. All right. When you lose weight, you can't spot reduce, or else all gum chewers would have skinny faces. All right. So what that means is when I start losing weight, the process is my rings are going to fit different first. Then I know I'm on my way. That's how it's important, because if you don't know the process, what happens is, man, I've been working out for a month, eating this, stuff made from the ground, and I still got my gut. And you're just like, yeah, but your rings are fitting different. So next, your legs are going to get smaller. Then your stomach. That's how you gain weight. So that's how you're going to lose it. And the same thing with kids. You have to get it at a place where I think a lot of kids think, man, if he would just play me here. And wishful thinking disrupts so many things, because wishful thinking becomes more true than the actual truth. I had a group that was older, 17U. I said, hey, look, we need to get you guys better because y'all are going to go to TABC. I mean, I don't know if y'all have been there. I take CHSA there. There are literally almost more coaches than there are players at TABC. It's crazy. I was like, so y'all need to prepare from March until then when you go to TABC to perform well. Now, this isn't my team. These are guys on other teams, different high schools. I was like, but y'all think the reason you're not getting a scholarship is because I'm not taking you to the right tournaments. So what do you need to work on when you go home? Nothing, because the reason you're not getting a scholarship is because of how I'm scheduling. I'm telling you that, like, people pay me to analyze talent, and you can't consistently show any skill that's going to make a coach want you on their roster to help them keep their job. That's the truth. The truth is you have to get better. But their wishful thinking And that car ride home that they tell the parents, because the kid is usually the smartest kid in basketball in the household. So the mom is just like, oh, so you just need to go to another team then that's going and getting this. And that's where they're doomed, because the wishful thinking has become more true than the actual truth. Instead of getting better, you think you need to be here with all these coaches. And then the moment you have your opportunity, you don't have a skill to say, hey, look at me. And so that's really what kids have to be careful of. I'm going to skip over that. I think we know what IPP is. But basically, what I'm saying is, it can be improvement based, attitude. All right, hey, let's watch film and and I think this is how. I think this should be the baseline first when you start watching film with your kid, is you should see who he is as a person. Basketball, sports, if your kid really loves it, basketball just means as much to them and them getting cut as you losing your job. Same feeling. So adversity isn't going to build character, it's going to reveal it. So when bad things happen, when adversity happens on the court, who does your son become? I think you should watch that first, because God willing, we're all going to be ex-players much longer than we're going to be current ones. I mean, in a few years, Michael Jordan is probably creeping up on that number pretty soon here. So that's the truth. So what became of my son as he was looking to get good at whatever this sport is? Man, whenever they lose, whenever he's wide open for a three and they don't hit him, look at his shoulders. He stops communicating with his team. He stops leading. I think recognizing that and then deciding to respond is way more important. I had when I was in college, we had a guy on our team. He was a big man, about 7 foot. He was tall, and he was recruited to rebound and block shots. This is time when I wasn't a great leader, and I'd throw him the ball. He'd be wide open. He'd fumble it out of bounds. Man, John, catch the ball. And he wasn't very mentally tough. So guess what he stopped doing? He didn't catch the ball all of a sudden. He didn't all of a sudden start doing a skill that he never had. What he stopped doing is he stopped rebounding, he stopped running for it, he stopped blocking shots. Again, I played under some really good coaches. Coach Marlin comes to me and he's like, all right, Jejuan, you see what becomes of John when you get on him? And I'm just like, yeah, man, he's just not getting it done. He's like, yeah. He was like, so do you think you should keep doing what you're doing, or should you take a different approach? And so he's like, I think you need to think about how you're going to respond the next time this happens instead of how you react, because your reaction isn't helping him. And so I went home and I was like, all right, next time John drops a pass, it was completely scripted. I'm going to say, hey, my bad. That was too hot. I'm going to throw a better pass next time. We're playing McNeese. We actually need to win this game. I dropped the ball off to John. He fumbles it out of bounds. And I'm all my might. I'm just like, John, my bad. That was too hot. I threw it out of bounds. Don't worry, JP. I'm going to catch the next one. He did not catch the next one, but he kept running the floor. He kept blocking shots, and we won. And that's pretty much the first time where I realized, I was like, hold on. If I can regulate my emotions, I can control a lot more than I realize. And that was a huge turning point for me in terms of me becoming a leader. And I think that is why people like me now. It's like nobody, to be honest, when I go to my gym, I got a couple guys that help me out at the gym. One of them's like 6'3". He went to Trinity, Texas Lutheran. Nobody cares about my career. All they care about is when Jejuan teaches my kid, does he get better? Nobody really goes back and say, like, what did you do and all that stuff. So at the end of the day, the person that they see is really who they're investing in. So, hold on, let's see. Perfect. All right, so with all that being said, so sometimes you got to look at their attitude, their leadership, court performance. It could be anything. It could be a voice recording. Hey, I want you to get better at blah, 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 this, that, and the other. So there's different ways to do it. Team performance plan. These are outlining areas that you want to cover. We'll talk about that when we get outside a little bit. You're creating standards for your team that you expect of them. Explain the consequences for us not doing a certain thing. So I kind of explain it here. Again, I got other stuff I want to get to, so I'm going to kind of skip over it. Those are just examples. And then after this, you have your yearly performance plan. Your yearly performance plan should coincide with your team performance plan. So I looked at some couple videos when I started coaching of the previous year when they played, and I looked at it and I was like, all right, look,